You ever notice how silence can feel louder than words? You're sitting across the table from someone. Maybe it's your spouse, your friend, your co-worker, and suddenly the energy shifts. They lean back, their arms cross, their eyes glaze over, and in that moment, you feel it. They've left the conversation. They're physically present, but emotionally, they've checked out. Now let me ask you, what's the first thing you do when that happens? For most of us, we chase, we talk faster, we talk louder. We explain ourselves 3 more times, thinking if I just say it the right way, they'll snap out of it. We grab onto the silence like it's a rope we can tug them back with. But what happens? The harder you pull, the more slack you feel. Because when someone disengages, chasing only pushes them further away. I'll give you an example. A couple came to me for advice once. They told me every argument ended the same way. She would want to resolve everything in the moment, and he would shut down. He'd go silent. He'd walk into the garage or sit on the couch scrolling his phone, and she'd chase him down the hallway, saying, "Talk to me. Don't you care about this marriage? Don't walk away from me!" And the more she pressed, the deeper into silence he went. Do you know what's happening there? It's not that he didn't care, it's that his nervous system was overloaded. He was disengaging to protect himself, not to reject her. But because she made his silence mean abandonment, she chased. And because she chased, he retreated even more. It became a loop that neither of them knew how to break. That's what disengagement feels like. A loop, a cycle of panic and withdrawal. One person pulls away, the other person pushes harder, and the distance only grows. And if you don't understand what's really happening underneath that moment, you'll misinterpret it every time. So here's the first truth you need to anchor in: disengagement doesn't always mean disinterest. It doesn't always mean disrespect. Sometimes disengagement simply means overwhelm. It means that person has hit their emotional ceiling and their brain has decided, I can't process any more right now. Think about it. When your phone overheats, what happens? It shuts down. Not because the phone hates you, not because it's planning to never turn back on again, but because the system is overloaded and needs to reset. People aren't that different. Sometimes the silence isn't punishment, it's protection. But here's where it gets tricky. When someone disengages, our brains don't see a phone cooling down. We see rejection, we see abandonment, we feel like we've been cut off. And because humans are wired for connection, our survival brain interprets that disconnection as danger. That's why you panic. That's why your stomach twists. That's why you feel the urge to do something, anything, to get them back. But listen, panic is not the same thing as love, and reacting to panic is not the same thing as building connection. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine this: you're in the living room. Your partner, your teenager, whoever it is, disengages in the middle of a heated conversation. They cross their arms. They stop making eye contact. You feel that panic rise in your chest, and you rush in. Talk to me. Don't ignore me. I need you to say something. But instead of coming closer, they pull further away. And now you're left not only feeling unheard, but also resentful. I'm trying here, and they don't even care. But here's the truth: it's not that they don't care. It's that your approach is making re-engagement unsafe, because no one re-engages when they feel cornered. People re-engage when they feel safe. Let me pause and repeat that, because this is the key to everything I'm saying here. No one re-engages when they feel cornered. They re-engage when they feel safe. And that means in the moment of disengagement, the most powerful thing you can do is the most counterintuitive. You stop chasing, you pause, you plant your feet, you breathe, you signal safety instead of pressure. Now, I can already hear the pushback. But Jefferson, if I stop chasing, what if they never come back? What if they stay gone? And my answer is this: then they weren't going to come back anyway. Because think about it, if the only way someone stays in conversation with you is because you're dragging them, then it's not real engagement. It's forced compliance. And forced compliance may keep the peace for a moment, but it destroys connection in the long run. Wouldn't you rather have someone re-engage because they want to, not because they had no other option? Wouldn't you rather build a relationship where people feel free to choose you instead of pressured into staying? That's the only kind of relationship that lasts. So what does it look like to stop chasing? It looks like saying calmly, I can see you're not in this conversation right now. That's okay. I'll give you some space. I'm here when you're ready. And then actually stepping back, not sulking, not sighing loudly, not making them pay for their silence by slamming dishes in the kitchen, stepping back, breathing, trusting. That pause, that space is not weakness, it's strength. Because what you're saying with your pause is, I don't have to force you to stay connected to me. I trust myself enough to wait. I trust you enough to come back. And do you know how powerful that is? Do you know what kind of message that sends? It tells the other person, this is a safe place. You don't have to perform for me. You don't have to push yourself past your limit. You can take a breath, and when you're ready, I'll still be here. That's what builds trust. That's what builds intimacy. Now, let me give you another story. A man I worked with told me his teenage daughter would always disengage during tough conversations. He'd try to talk to her about school or her friends, and the moment she felt even a hint of criticism, she'd fold her arms and go quiet. His instinct was to lecture harder. Don't you shut down on me! You need to listen. But the harder he pushed, the quieter she became. And he thought, she doesn't respect me. She doesn't care. But when he shifted his approach, when he said, instead, I can see this as overwhelming for you right now. That's okay. Take your time. I'm here whenever you want to talk. Everything changed. It didn't happen overnight. But eventually, she started coming back to him. She started re-engaging. Because she no longer saw her dad as a threat in those moments. She saw him as a safe space. Do you see the difference? One approach says, you owe me engagement, so I'll drag it out of you. The other says, I want connection with you, but I won't force it. I'll wait for you. And the second approach is the one that works every time. Here's the deal. Handling disengagement, well, requires you to master your own emotions first. It requires you to sit in the discomfort of silence without making it about your worth, your value, or your fears. It requires you to remind yourself their disengagement is not a mirror of my value. It's a reflection of their capacity. And once you really believe that, once you anchor in that truth, you'll stop chasing. You'll stop panicking. You'll start planting. And that's when everything shifts. And let me tell you, passive aggressiveness doesn't invite re-engagement any more than chasing does. If anything, it makes people feel guilty, and guilt doesn't create safety, it creates resistance. So the real question is this: how do you make that pause count? How do you create space that actually draws someone back instead of pushing them further away? The answer is simple, but not easy. You regulate yourself first, because when someone disengages, here's the temptation: we make it about us. They're ignoring me. They don't value me. They don't respect me. And if you carry that belief into your next interaction, I promise you it will leak out of you through your tone, through your body language, through your size, through the way you re-enter the conversation. But if instead you regulate yourself, if you take that pause and use it not as punishment but as preparation, then you show back up calmer, clearer, steadier, and people re-engage with steadiness. They don't re-engage with volatility. Think about it like this. Imagine you're swimming in the ocean. A wave knocks you under. In that moment, you're gasping for air, you're flailing, you're panicking. Now imagine someone jumps into save you, but they're panicking too. They're flailing right along with you. Do you feel safer? No, you feel more at risk. But if someone dives in calm, steady, anchored, suddenly you can grab hold of their steadiness until you catch your breath. That's what re-engagement feels like. The other person has been knocked under by the wave of the conversation. They need you to be steady, not frantic. So how do you regulate yourself? Here's where the practical part comes in. Number 1, breathe. And I don't just mean the casual inhale, exhale you do every second of your life. I mean intentional breathing, slowing down your system. I teach people a simple rhythm. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. It calms your nervous system. It tells your body, I'm not in danger. Because until your body believes you're safe, your words won't matter. Number 2, remind yourself of the truth. Say it out loud if you have to. Their disengagement is not about my worth. This is about their capacity right now. Because if you don't speak that truth into your mind, your brain will invent a lie. And the lie will sound like, they don't love me, they don't respect me, I'm not enough. And those lies will hijack your behavior. Number 3, shift your posture. Literally, your body sends signals to your brain. If your fists are clenched, if your shoulders are tight, your brain stays in fight mode. Open your hands, drop your shoulders, take up space instead of collapsing. Your body tells your brain, we're not at war here, we can relax. And once you regulate yourself, here's the magic. When you return to that person, they feel the difference. They sense the calm, they sense the steadiness. And without you saying a word, your presence tells them it's safe to come back now. Now let me show you this in a story. A woman told me she and her husband used to fight constantly about finances. Every time the subject came up, he would disengage, cross his arms, check out, and she'd follow him, talking faster, trying harder, getting louder. It never worked. But when she started doing this, breathing, pausing, regulating, everything changed. One night he disengaged as usual, and instead of chasing, she said, I can tell this is too much right now. I'll step back, but I want to talk when you're ready. And then she actually let go. She went upstairs, she made tea, she calmed herself. And here's the beautiful part. 20 minutes later, he came upstairs and said, okay, I'm ready to talk now. Why? Because he no longer felt hunted. He felt safe. And safety is what invites people back into the room. But here's where I want to challenge you. This isn't just about waiting for the other person to re-engage. Sometimes disengagement is an opportunity for you to reflect on how you've been showing up in the first place. Because sometimes, let's be honest, people disengage not because of their capacity, but because of our approach. Maybe you've been speaking more to win than to understand. Maybe you've been pushing so hard for resolution that you haven't left space for processing. Maybe your tone, even if your words are fine, carries edge and pressure. And if that's the case, disengagement isn't just about them. It's feedback for you. Now, I don't say that to put blame on you. I say it to give you power. Because when you see disengagement as feedback, you realize you're not helpless. You have influence here. You can shift your posture. You can shift your tone. You can shift your pace. And when you do, you create an environment where engagement feels like an invitation, not an obligation. So let's unpack what invitation looks like in real life. First, it looks like language that's open-ended, not cornering. Instead of, why are you ignoring me? It's, I can tell you need a break. I'll be here when you're ready. Instead of, we need to finish this right now. It's, this conversation matters to me, and I want to have it when we can both give it the attention it deserves. Those words leave the door open without pushing someone through it. Second, it looks like timing. If you've ever had someone try to re-engage you too soon, you know how suffocating it feels. You're barely catching your breath, and they're already hovering. Are you ready yet? Can we talk now? That's not invitation. That's pressure with a nice bow on it. Invitation requires patience. It means you let the other person set the pace. And third, it looks like consistency. Because here's the thing, If you create calm space once, but the next time you snap, people won't trust your calm. They'll think, this is just a tactic. It's not who you really are, but when you consistently show up steady, even when it's hard, people start to believe, okay, this is safe. They're not going to chase me. They're not going to corner me. I can come back when I'm ready. Now, let me give you a picture. Imagine a parent with a teenager. The teenager storms off to their room, slams the door, disengages. The parent's instinct to march upstairs, pound on the door, demand a conversation. But what does that do? It drives the teenager deeper into retreat. But picture this instead. The parent takes a deep breath, lets the teenager have space, and later leaves a note on the door. I love you. I'm here when you're ready. No pressure, no demand, just an open door. That note becomes an invitation. And more often than not, the teenager eventually comes out, not because they were forced, but because they felt safe to. That's what we're after in every disengaged moment. Not forced compliance, but voluntary connection. And the only way to get voluntary connection is by creating safety. Now, here's the challenge. Invitation requires you to surrender control. And control is the hardest thing for most of us to let go of, especially in conflict. Because we think, if I don't control this moment, it's going to spiral. If I don't force resolution now, it'll never come. But the irony is, the more you clutch control, the less likely you are to get resolution, because control suffocates, invitation breathes. So let's make this practical. The next time someone disengages, instead of chasing, I want you to picture yourself holding a door, not shoving them through it, not slamming it shut, just holding it open. That's what your words and your tone should feel like. The door is open. Step through when you're ready. And yes, sometimes that means waiting longer than feels comfortable. Sometimes that means sitting in uncertainty. Sometimes it means biting your tongue when everything in you wants to push. But remember this, comfort doesn't create connection. Patience does. I'll tell you a story about a business leader I coached. She had an employee who always disengaged in team meetings when conflict came up. He'd go quiet, avoid eye contact, check out. At first, she tried to force him to speak. You need to contribute. What's your opinion? And every time it backfired, he withdrew even more. Finally, she tried something different. She stopped putting him on the spot in the moment. After the meeting, she'd say, I noticed you got quiet today. I want you to know your input is valuable, and I'd love to hear it when you're ready. You can email me or we can talk one-on-one. No pressure, just invitation. And slowly, he began sharing more, not because he was forced, but because the door felt safe. That's the power of invitation. It doesn't demand. It doesn't coerce. It creates an environment where people choose connection. And let me tell you, connection chosen is always stronger than connection forced. Now, I want to be clear. Invitation doesn't mean tolerating disengagement forever. It doesn't mean you sit around indefinitely waiting for someone who never comes back. There's a balance. If disengagement becomes a pattern of avoidance, if it's their way of dodging every hard conversation, then you set boundaries. You say, I respect that you need breaks, but I also need us to engage at some point. Let's find a way that works for both of us. Invitation works best when paired with boundaries. Boundaries ensure you don't get stuck in a cycle where one person disengages forever and the other waits endlessly. But boundaries spoken with steadiness, not anger, still keep the door open. Here's what I love about invitation. It's both strong and soft. It says, I care enough about you to give you space, but I also care enough about me to ask for re-engagement when you're ready. That balance of strength and softness is what makes relationships thrive. Too much strength without softness becomes control. Too much softness without strength becomes enabling. But when you hold both, people trust you. So let's recap this bridge. After you regulate yourself, you create invitation. You let go of control, you hold the door open and you allow re-engagement to be their choice. And when re-engagement is a choice, it sticks, because people always value the connections they choose more than the ones they're forced into. Now, you may be thinking, Jefferson, this sounds great in theory, but in the moment, it's hard. And you're right, it is hard. Because your emotions are running. Your ego wants to be validated. You want to make sure they know how much they hurt you by disengaging. But here's the truth. Leadership in relationships often means going first. And going first means setting aside your ego for the sake of connection. Gentleness and clarity aren't about letting someone off the hook. They're about creating an environment where real accountability is possible. Because accountability without safety just feels like punishment. But accountability in an environment of gentleness and clarity feels like growth. So here's a simple framework you can use. Affirm, invite, clarify. When someone re-engages, you first affirms, thanks for coming back. Then you invite, I want us to be able to have this conversation together. Then you clarify, here's what I need from us moving forward. That's it. Affirm, invite, clarify. It keeps the moment safe while still moving forward. Let's go even deeper, because re-engagement isn't just about words, it's about body language. You could say all the right things, but if your arms are crossed, your eyes are rolling, your tone is sharp, they won't feel gentleness. They'll feel judgment. Re-engagement requires you to match your words with your posture. Open body language, steady tone, soft eyes. That's what makes gentleness believable. Think of it this way, you're not just speaking to someone's ears, you're speaking to their nervous system. And nervous systems don't just respond to words, they respond to tone, volume, facial expressions, and pacing. If you want someone to feel safe re-engaging, you have to speak to their nervous system in a way that says, you're safe here. I'm not going to bite. Now, here's the kicker. Practicing gentleness and clarity in re-engagement doesn't just help the other person. It helps you too, because it reminds you that you don't have to let frustration run the show. It teaches you that you can stay steady in hard moments. And every time you prove that to yourself, you grow stronger. So the fifth step is where it all comes together. Regulation gave you stability. Invitation created the bridge. Now, re-engagement with gentleness and clarity allows you to actually cross that bridge into resolution. This is the step that turns a cycle of disengagement into a cycle of connection. And here's what I want you to hear. The way you handle this moment matters more than you think, because every re-engagement either builds trust or erodes it. Every time someone comes back and finds safety, trust grows. Every time someone comes back and finds judgment, trust shrinks. Over time, that trust determines the health of your relationship. So let me leave you with this. When someone disengages, don't see it as the end of the conversation. See it as a pause, a chance to reset. And when they return, meet them with gentleness, offer clarity, and hold that steady space, because the goal isn't to win the moment. The goal is to win the relationship.